Alright, this video is going to be about anarchy, because I have a lot of problems with anarchy. I have talked to anarchists, and none of them will answer my questions. I've been at public demonstrations. I've been at public demonstrations that have become riots, and then I'll ask anarchists what they're all about, and they won't answer me. And there have been times when I've used speakerphones, and anarchists will censor me and take the speakerphone away from me, and I just find it to be so ironic when an anarchist decides to censor somebody. But yet the contradiction seems to be rather consistent. And I'm sorry to say that to a certain degree it exists with the user Aomadi. Aomadi is the one whose video I'm responding to, which was really a response to one of my questions. This is basically what went down between me and Aomadi. I'm not even sure if I'm saying his name right. Probably not. I asked him a question, and I said, I've watched a few of your videos, and I must say I'm at a loss for words. When you say everyone would just naturally go to their own niche, isn't that the world we presently live in? Like in the 18th century, people got tired of religious wars, so they made secularism. People in the East didn't have a problem with that, so they stayed the same way they were. Some people are capitalists, some people are communists in other countries, and all of these interests organize into states. Then he answered, your question is so unrelated to this video that I would prefer to answer it elsewhere, either in future material or private message. I do believe you sincerely seek an answer, but I'm going to remove your last and this present comment in a day or two. Great question. Please take no offense. Just wanna keep comment section on track. Okay, so he took off my comment. I just find it to be weird. You know, if you want an honest discussion, don't censor your channel. I asked him, and then I sent him a private message, and I said, you know, this is basically what my questions were. I haven't heard back from him yet. He has not private messaged me. I said, give me some literature, give me some anarchic literature, so that I'm not so ignorant. But he hasn't done that. And I asked him another question. Let's say that one political entity, call it whatever you want, gets really good at making nuclear weapons. If anarchy were implemented, how would they be stopped from using it? Wouldn't a larger systematic body be needed to thwart such problems? And so he made this video, and it had to do with the nuke question. I really wish he would have gave me some literature, but he didn't. Makes me wonder if he really has access to any literature on anarchy, or if it's just something that he thinks is cool. Anyways, he basically makes the argument that if any one state, or not state, I'm sorry, political entity, were to make nuclear weapons, all the other political entities would rise up against them and stop associating with them. He also says that how would you even have nukes in a world where there were no boundaries? I'm sorry to tell this to everybody out there, but boundaries are not imaginary. They're very physical. Okay? For instance, even if you just had a city-state, once you got into the city, you're within the city's boundaries. Once you're out of the city, you're out of the city's boundaries. Simple as that. There will always be boundaries. Even in an anarchic system, you would have boundaries. Okay? They're not imaginary. We have a tendency in the post-colonial world and the postmodern world to say there's no such thing as boundaries or geographic boundaries, because really that gives us a false sense of who we are, and all sorts of problems like nationalism occur because of these things. But let me tell you, boundaries are emergent. I mean, even apes have territorialism, or territorialism. Okay, you get into their area, they get pissed off. Okay, even our Neolithic and Paleolithic ancestors, they had boundaries. Okay, and even in this modern world, still, we have boundaries. Why? Because there are limited resources, and as long as there's limited resources, there are going to be people fighting for those limited resources. And if one group gets better at getting those resources than the other one does, there's going to be a war between those two political entities. Call it what you will, call it a nation state, whatever. And you need a larger body to make sure that other bodies don't get involved. You need that. And although those things don't presently exist as they should, the UN is a bad example, yes, you still need some kind of larger system. It could be improved on, yes, but let us remember that the perfect is always the enemy of the good. Anyway, to get back with the nuclear question, you said that, El Yamadi said that if someone were to nuke somebody else, everyone would disassociate with them. They would have sanctions against them. But my question is, what if that one political entity got so good at making nuclear weapons that actually it took all the uranium possible, and none of those other political entities were able to get enough? They could say, well, we'll nuke you, and if you don't do business with us, we'll nuke your neighbors too. It could be that simple. And then you talk about Iraq, and, wouldn't have been great if we didn't have this, bad international system. Yeah, you're right. It could be improved on, but that doesn't mean that we should get rid of it altogether. Then you also said that democracies pit collective wills against each other. Well, not necessarily, because in the West we have economic entities that kind of assimilate other countries into the fold, and they have economic incentives to do what we'd like them to do and for them to remain complacent. People might not like that, but that is why we have such a good standard of living here in the West as compared to other countries who haven't integrated into that system yet. And by the way, if you guys are mad at me right now, instead of leaving a text message, send me literature. Give me something to read, because none of you anarchists, you just say I'm stupid, and you say this, you say that. Give me some literature. Alright? I'd love to. I'd love to read about it. But anyways, I'm basically saying here is that in an emergent system, you might come up with a political entity that is so strong that no one would dare cross them because they're afraid of being totally annihilated. That fear might actually, no matter how the other states might retaliate, they might not be able to retaliate as good as the emergent superpower in this anarchic system. They might not have a nation state, but they're still a political entity that has access to nukes when others don't. So I don't think your response of, well, they'd just retaliate, and that would be a negative reinforcement, then they wouldn't use it. Because it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Because, again, because they're limited resources, they might become so good at it that you need a regulating body that makes sure that certain entities don't get nukes. Okay? And also, I mean, in an anarchic system, you might have monopolies. Okay? That's laissez-faire. Okay? We don't want laissez-faire. Laissez-faire is bad. That's what we've been trying, and it doesn't work. You need regulation. You need a regulatory body. And anyways, I'm done with this rant. Basically what I'm trying to say is that boundaries are not imaginary. They would exist even if in city-states. Once you're in the city, you'd be within their boundaries. Once you're in the city, you'd be out of the boundary. Secondly, states are also emergent. Okay, nation-states are emergent. People collectively organize their ideologies into a state. Third of all, even if there weren't states, you need some sort of body to make sure that one political entity didn't get too much more powerful over the other. And fourth, nukes would be the ultimate deterrent, and any sanctions wouldn't be good enough to take out that main superpower. So anyways, people might say, oh, I'm just trapped in this nation-state. I understand, okay, that, for instance, in Rwanda, you have a country that's falsely based on territorial boundaries, and that really the Hutu and Tutsis weren't separate people, and they wouldn't have fought each other if it weren't for the fucking Dutch. But that besides the point. Sometimes the nation-state really does represent the interests of a group of people. And you can't take out the whole system because it doesn't work in some cases. We do need boundaries, and because people organize themselves into such large bodies, there's no stopping it, and anarchy just does not allow for that.